The woman lay half-conscious, vision blurred, but she could see flashes of the battle through the haze. Golden fur, shining scales, a whirl of movement too fast to follow. Each sound carved itself into her memory. The hiss of the python, the roar of the lion, the tearing of flesh against scales. She felt both terror and awe. She had lived among these animals for years, but never had she witnessed such raw fury, such elemental violence. The python struck back, sinking curved teeth into the lion's shoulder. The big cat roared in pain, staggering, but he did not retreat. Instead, his jaws closed tighter around the serpent's neck, shaking violently. Dust clouded the air, choking the sunlight, until the fight seemed to happen in a storm of earth and fury. For a moment, it looked as though neither would win. The woman could only watch, trapped in the coils that still gripped her lower body. Each second dragged like an eternity. Her hand reached for the soil, fingers digging into the earth as if anchoring herself to life. She whispered through gasps, though no one could hear, a prayer to the forest itself. And then, with a sound like dry wood splitting, the lion's teeth broke through. The python convulsed, its strength faltering. Its coils loosened, just enough for the woman to drag herself free, crawling backward across the dirt, each movement burning with pain. Her vision swam, but she kept her eyes fixed on the lion. She could not look away. The great cat stood over the dying serpent, chest heaving, mane streaked with dust and blood. His sides rose and fell with the effort of battle, but his eyes still burned, fierce and untamed. He gave one last shake, flinging the snake's body to the ground, and the forest fell silent. The woman lay trembling, every muscle weak, but alive. Her gaze met the lion's for the briefest moment. No words were spoken, none were needed. In his eyes she saw no mercy, no friendship, only the truth of the wild, a law older than mankind. Yet in that truth, there was something that felt like protection. Slowly, the lion stepped back, leaving the crushed python in the dirt. He turned his head toward the forest, mane catching the first light that pierced the canopy. Without a sound, he walked away, each step heavy, each movement dignified, until the shadows swallowed him once more. The woman lay still, listening to the pounding of her heart. Around her, the forest began to breathe again. Birds returned to the branches, cautious at first. A monkey gave a tentative call, answered by another. Life, as always, resumed. But she knew nothing would ever feel the same. She pushed herself up with shaking arms, eyes lingering on the broken coils of the serpent, then to the place where the lion had vanished. A line of sunlight filtered through the trees, falling across her face like a quiet blessing. The forest had nearly claimed her. Instead, it had given her back. And somewhere in the shadows, a lion carried the weight of a battle that would never be spoken, but never forgotten. The jungle fell into silence again. But it was a different silence, one filled with the echo of roars, the memory of coils, and the fragile breath of a life returned. The forest was a storm of silence. After the thunder of roars and the violent thrashing of coils, there came only stillness, heavy, waiting, as if even the earth itself dared not breathe. The python lay motionless for a long moment, its long body coiled like a broken rope across the dirt, blood streaking its scales where the lion's teeth had torn through. Then, with a final hiss that was more surrender than challenge, the serpent began to move, its battered body uncoiled, dragging itself toward the undergrowth with slow, aching movements. Leaves whispered as it slipped back into shadow, carrying its pain into the unseen depths of the forest. With each pull of its muscles, the jungle seemed to swallow it whole, until nothing remained but the faint ripple of disturbed grass. The terror had vanished into the wild, not dead, only retreating. The woman collapsed to her knees. Her chest heaved, each breath shallow but desperate, as if her lungs could not believe they were free again. Her throat burned where coils had pressed, and her skin bore angry red marks that would later turn purple. Yet, in that moment, none of it mattered. She was alive. The forest ranger who had nearly been swallowed by silence now drank in air like a gift from the sky. And there, towering just a few feet away, stood the lion that he was more than a shape in the light. He was a force, a living monument of muscle and will. His mane caught the sunlight in streaks of gold, every strand of hair glowing as if lit from within. His chest rose and fell with the exhaustion of battle, but his eyes, steady and unblinking, remained locked on her. Not with hunger, not with the cold calculation of predator and prey. It was something else, something harder to name, for the briefest of moments. The world narrowed to that gaze. The woman's hands trembled as she pressed them into the soil, grounding herself against the dizzying storm inside. Her heart hammered wildly, but in the lion's eyes she saw no pursuit, no promise of death. She saw judgment perhaps, curiosity perhaps, but beyond all of it, she saw recognition. The jungle's fiercest hunter had stepped between her and death, and for reasons the human mind could not fully hold. She was still breathing because of him. The lion's breath steamed faintly in the cool air as he lifted his head, scanning the forest for any sign of the retreating python. His tail flicked once, a final mark of defiance against the intruder. Then, slowly, he turned back to the woman. Their eyes met again, and this time, something shifted. Fear bent into gratitude. Wildness brushed against humanity. It was not friendship, not trust. Such things do not belong in the wilderness. But it was a bond all the same, forged in the fire of survival. Neither moved. Time stretched thin, balancing on a silence so fragile it felt like it could break with a single heartbeat. And then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, the lion turned away. With the quiet authority of a king who owed no explanation, he padded back into the forest. His massive paws pressed soft prints into the dust, each one filling quickly with drifting leaves. He did not look back. The battle was over, the debt paid. His figure melted into the tapestry of trees, mane blending with shafts of light until only the swaying grass showed where he had been. The woman remained kneeling, her whole body trembling, eyes fixed on the space where the lion had vanished. Her hands lifted to her throat, feeling the bruises left by the serpent's coils. She could still feel the phantom pressure there, the memory of suffocation clinging to her like shadow. And yet, beneath the pain, she felt something else. Awe. The jungle around her began to breathe again. First a bird, hesitant, testing the silence with a single note. Then another, higher, weaving a fragile thread of song through the trees. A monkey called, not with alarm this time, but with curiosity, as if gossiping about what it had seen. Insects resumed their hum, a low chorus that filled the spaces between heartbeats. The forest, shaken but unbroken, was returning to itself. She sat back, her palms sinking into the earth. It was damp, cool, grounding, a reminder that life still held her. She closed her eyes, letting the sounds wash over her. The lion's roar still echoed faintly in her chest, like thunder rolling long after the storm had passed. The python's coils still haunted her skin, but she was alive, and the forest had witnessed something she could never forget. In that place, where predator had defended prey, a truth unfolded that words could not carry. The wilderness was brutal, yes, but it was also mysterious. It had its own laws, written in silence and shadow, in claw and fang. And sometimes, against every rule humans believed they understood. Compassion rose where only violence was expected. The ranger pressed her forehead to the ground, not in weakness, but in respect, for the lion, for the forest, for the balance that had spared her. Tears slid into the soil, vanishing as quickly as the paw prints fading in the dust. She thought of how many times she had walked these paths believing she was their guardian. Today, she had been the one guarded. When she finally lifted her head, the forest was glowing with late sunlight. Shafts of gold pierced the canopy, turning dust motes into tiny stars that drifted lazily in the air. The grass swayed in rhythm with the wind, whispering secrets she could not understand. Her body ached, her spirit trembled, but her heart carried a new weight. The weight of having looked into the eyes of the wild and lived to carry the memory. She stood slowly, leaning on a nearby tree for balance. Each step was shaky, but her legs held. Behind her lay the trail of broken earth where lion and serpent had battled, a scar in the forest that would soon be covered by time. Before her stretched the path back to camp, lined with trees whose shadows grew long in the fading light. For a moment she hesitated, glancing once more into the place where the lion had disappeared. The grass there had stilled, the silence complete. He was gone, yet she felt his presence lingering, not as fear, but as a quiet truth. She would walk this forest again, and she would carry him with her, not as a threat, but as a reminder. Survival in the wilderness was never promised. It was borrowed, moment by moment, from the hands of forces beyond control. Today she had borrowed life from a lion's roar, from a clash written in dust and blood. Tomorrow, who could say? But as she took her first step down the trail, one thought held steady in her chest. Sometimes, even in the fiercest heart of the wild, mercy can rise like sunlight through the trees. The forest closed around her, alive again. The paw prints in the dust faded, and the memory of golden eyes lingered, haunting and beautiful, in the shadows where the lion walked alone. The sound of wings beat softly through the forest canopy as dawn pushed its way into the trees. Shafts of golden light filtered through the leaves, slicing the mist into ribbons that clung to the undergrowth. The air smelled of damp earth, green and alive, carrying the sharp cry of monkeys swinging above and the steady hum of insects rising with the day. Everything moved with quiet rhythm, as though the forest itself were breathing, slow and steady, in harmony with the morning. Through this calm, footsteps pressed gently into the soil. A young woman, a ranger sworn to protect these wild lands, walked along a narrow path cut through vines and brush. Her boots crunched softly against the fallen leaves, and in her hand she carried a notebook, worn at the edges, filled with weeks of observations. Her eyes scanned the trees with practiced care. She had walked this trail countless times, yet each step still carried respect for the unpredictability of the wild. She knew the forest had moods, and she listened for them. High in the canopy, a hornbill glided from branch to branch, its great beak catching the light like polished stone. The woman tilted her head, jotting a note. Nearby, a troop of vervet monkeys burst into chatter, their tails twitching in playful arcs. The scene was almost idyllic, a world suspended in balance, each sound a thread in the web of the forest's life. And yet, just beneath that music, there was another presence. The silence that clung too tightly to certain corners of the trail. The way the undergrowth seemed to watch, the lion appeared first as a shadow between trees. A flash of gold, a ripple of muscle, and then the full shape stepped forward, a male in his prime, his mane rich with dust and sunlight. His eyes, deep and golden, locked on the ranger. For a breath, the forest seemed to hold still. The woman froze, though not in fear. She had seen this lion before. Their paths had crossed enough times that she recognized the quiet authority in his step, the measured weight of a predator that had no need to prove its strength. He did not lower his head or growl. He only stood, shoulders rising with each slow breath, eyes fixed on her in a way that felt both dangerous and strangely calm. The woman's hand hovered near her satchel, not for a weapon, but for her camera, though she did not raise it. To lift the lens would feel like breaking the fragile understanding between them. Instead, she simply lowered her gaze, her body relaxed but alert. The lion blinked, tail swaying once behind him, then stepped aside, melting back into shadow. It was not friendship. It was not trust in the human sense. It was survival, a rhythm the forest had set, predator and protector moving in the same land, each aware of the other, neither crossing the line. The woman let out a slow breath and continued on, though her heart beat harder now. She knew how rare such moments were, and how easily they could change, unseen by either ranger or lion. The grass at the edge of the trail stirred with a different kind of life. Coiled tight, pressed flat against the earth, a python lay hidden. Its body was thick as a log, its scales dark with greens and browns that blended perfectly with the forest floor. Only the slow flicker of its tongue betrayed it, tasting the air for scent, listening with its skin for vibrations. Patient, ancient, it waited. Unlike the lion, it carried no aura of majesty. It was hunger shaped into muscle, silence sharpened into instinct. The ranger walked on, unaware. She bent to inspect claw marks on a tree trunk, a leopard sign, left in the night. She wrote quickly, her pencil scratching across the page, then stood again to scan the treetops. Above, sunlight caught in the leaves, turning them to gold. For now, the world felt safe, but the lion did not move far. From the distance, his eyes still followed her, his ears twitching with every sound. His instincts, carved by countless hunts and battles, sensed the weight of tension hidden in the forest air. He lifted his head, sniffing. Something was wrong. A breeze pushed through the trees, carrying the thick, earthy scent of snake. The lion's muscles tightened, though he remained still, as if waiting for the forest itself to reveal the truth. The woman paused on the trail, wiping sweat from her brow. The day was warming quickly. The air thickened, buzzing with the relentless hum of cicadas. She leaned against a tree, letting her eyes close for just a second. The ground beneath her seemed solid, steady. She didn't notice the silence creeping into the canopy. The monkeys that had filled the air with chatter had gone quiet. The hornbill had vanished deeper into the trees. Even the insects seemed muted, as though the forest had lowered its voice. The python shifted, slow and careful, coils pressing deeper into the soil. Its patience was endless. It did not need to rush. Hunger had waited this long. It could wait longer still. Every movement of the woman, every pause of her footstep, was measured in weight. She was not prey in the natural order, too tall, too strange, not the usual target of its kind. But instinct does not always follow rules. In this moment, the forest offered opportunity, and the python's body was a weapon built to seize it. The lion's tail flicked once, sharply, a sign of unease. He moved closer, stepping softly, his paws leaving no sound on the earth. His eyes narrowed, fixed on the patch of brush where the tension seemed to pool like water. His mane brushed against the leaves, carrying with it the smell of predator, warning unseen rivals. Still, the woman did not know. She opened her notebook once more, sketching the curve of the claw marks, unaware that danger lay just steps away, silent and waiting. The forest held its breath. For now, nothing had broken. Nothing had spilled into violence. The woman walked in peace, her shadow stretching across the trail, the lion slipping deeper into the trees, the python tightening its coils in readiness. But all around, the signs gathered. The hush of birds, the unease of the air, the watchful stillness of the grass. The calm was real, but fragile. It would not last. Somewhere in the silence, the storm was already gathering. The forest did not give a warning. One heartbeat it was calm, the next it was chaos. Out of the tangle of ferns and shadows, the python erupted like a bolt of living thunder. Its body, thick as a tree trunk, shot forward with terrifying speed, scales flashing in the dappled light. Before the woman could react, the serpent coiled around her waist, its weight slamming her to the forest floor. Dust and leaves burst into the air, and the quiet of morning shattered into a storm of violence. She screamed, a sharp sound that pierced the trees. But the python's coils closed tighter, crushing the breath from her lungs. Her fingers clawed at the rough, armored skin, nails tearing, but it was like trying to pull apart iron. Each breath was smaller than the one before it. The air seemed to thicken, heavy with panic. Her eyes darted upward to the canopy, as if the branches themselves might offer escape. But there was no escape. The forest came alive with sound. Birds exploded from the trees in a frantic whirl. Monkeys screamed warnings from the high branches. The hum of insects turned into a shrill chorus, as if every creature felt the violence unfolding on the forest floor. And beneath it all, the sound of leaves grinding under the python's enormous coils. It was the sound of power, ancient and merciless. Her body twisted, searching for space to breathe. But the more she fought, the tighter the serpent bound her. The world spun in flashes, green leaves, brown earth, the glint of scales. Her strength was leaving, stolen breath by stolen breath. The forest ranger who had walked these trails with calm confidence now lay helpless, trapped in silence that grew louder inside her chest. Then, through the haze of panic, came a sound that split the air. A roared it rolled through the forest like thunder breaking against mountains. Birds fell silent mid-flight. The monkeys froze. Even the python paused for a fraction of a second, coils trembling. From the shadows of the undergrowth, golden eyes burned with fury. The lion had come. He stepped forward slowly at first, each muscle rippling under his tawny coat. His mane shook with the force of his growl, a warning that shook the very trees. This was no hunt. This was war. His gaze fixed not on the woman, but on the python, an intruder, a rival predator. A threat that had broken the unspoken law of the forest. The python hissed, lifting its massive head, tongue flicking in defiance. Its coils did not loosen. If anything, they squeezed harder, as if to say, "She is mine." The woman's body jerked as the grip tightened, a choked gasp escaping her lips. Time seemed to stretch, holding its breath, waiting for one to strike. And then the lion lunged. His body was a blur of muscle and fury. He slammed into the python with the weight of a falling boulder, jaws snapping around its scaled flesh. The forest floor erupted in dust and broken branches as predator met predator. The python writhed, its coils flinging the woman aside like a rag doll, though the grip around her legs still held. She hit the ground hard, pain exploding through her body, but air, blessed air, filled her lungs in broken gasps. The lion roared again, a sound that seemed to tear the sky open. His claws ripped at the python's armored skin, leaving dark gashes. The snake thrashed violently, its massive tail smashing against the ground, sending dirt flying. It tried to turn its crushing coils onto the lion, but he was faster, fueled by rage and something deeper, a primal instinct to destroy this trespasser.